Hi, everyone. Hello again, and hello, Babula.
Hi there, Cheryl.
And welcome to another episode of Astrology Now. And I was just saying to Babula before we are having a pre-chat, I was saying how normally I would just jump into talking about, the astrology or how I was feeling, but this time I just feel quite heavy. And I'm just wondering whether it's coming from the approaching lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So, tuning into that and thinking about that, even just thinking about that, it just has a sense of heaviness, blanketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And you're absolutely right. I've been feeling it all day. I mean, the moon hasn't come into
No.
Scorpio yet, but it's certainly approaching. Um, and I was just saying to you before that, I laid down just for a little rest this afternoon, just to read my novel for a bit. And fell asleep, went into this deep sleep for about a solid hour and woke up and thought, oh my God, it's time to talk to Cheryl. And I raced around to sort of get myself. But it was that feeling. And I did some painting today and I just thought, I'm not really getting into it because I just felt really tired. I
Yeah.
think it's that strong, Mercury is retrograde in Taurus.
Yeah.
It's a slow energy. This we are in the eclipse portal.
Mm.
This full moon in Scorpio, lunar eclipse is on our doorstep, which we're going to talk
Mm.
about. So yeah, it's a very kind of deep,
Yeah.
deep energy. It's not really light and bubbly particularly.
No, it's not. I don't
No.
feel like that either. And I've had a couple of realizations recently about some deeply emotional things, and I think that's that Scorpio, tuning into that scorpionic energy. It's like sort of I don't know. It's just riding a stuck in the mud sort of feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can feel like, when there's Scorpio energy strong, that we're sort of wading through thick treacle and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
But
certainly,
yes, it's quite strong. And the other thing, of course, is that as we have this conversation a few days before the eclipse, our dear friend Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, and
mm,
his name, his title is the Lord of the Underworld,
mm,
heaven forbid. He is currently, as we speak, stationary, just turning retrograde.
yeah.
Have been moving forward in forward motion for about, or direct motion for about 6.5 months,
Mm,
and got to 0 degrees and 21 minutes of Aquarius,
mm,
appeared to stop. They don't actually stop and change direction, and is now very slowly beginning to change direction, backwards, retrograde.
mm,
And
mm.
so for the next 5.5 months or so, um, Pluto will be in retrograde motion, and that's a big part of what you're experiencing.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. You know,
Yes.
going back into Capricorn and
So
then
yes,
heaviness, of
he won't get back into Capricorn till June, but
yeah,
absolutely, he's
changed. Yeah,
yeah, change of direction. When a planet is in the process of changing direction, especially the slow
yeah.
moving outer planets, the energy of that planet is very strong and very present, and we really experience it. So it feels very plutonic right now.
Yeah, yeah, caught in a deep sticky rip. That's what I'm
Yes.
feeling. But
Yes, and I've just sort of connected a little dot here. We're just chatting about how there was a water incident in the house this morning. As this lovely man came to change the filter on our water filter, and something that he said never happened to him before. Some piece of the apparatus just fell away in his hands, and water, because it was under high pressure, went everywhere. And Scorpio's a water sign.
yeah, yeah.
And he was in a bit of shock because it was quite, and this, see, it's so interesting. We start talking and we see all these connections. Pluto has as an explosive kind of an energy. It's deep and atomic. And literally, I was just in the room next to where he was working, just leaving him alone to work in peace. And I could tell, like, all of a sudden, he just went into shock. This water just erupted everywhere. It's very plutonic, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
And around an eclipse time, I'm thinking, because it can be quite unstable as well. Things can be unstable, that energy
Yes.
around eclipses.
Yes, exactly. Eclipses are a real catalyst for change. They're wild cards.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen or what to expect, but usually big things happen.
Yeah, endings and beginnings,
Absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about Scorpio.
She says with glee. She said with enthusiasm, not.
Oh,
So well, yes, so this full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio opposite the sun in Taurus. It's such an interesting, I think I say that every time I find the polarities of the signs opposite each other. It's a very interesting story.
yeah.
So while the sun makes his way through the sign of Taurus, our
Mm.
concerns or our attention turns to practical matters, the
Food,
physical
money, resources. Yeah.
food, exactly, food, money,
Mm.
resources,
Mm.
growing things, the land, farmers, money, banking, all of those kinds of really pragmatic, practical, grounded, sensible things. Um, and the opposite sign of Scorpio, and of course, we have to say about Taurus, it's about building a sense of permanence and stability.
Mm.
Scorpio, the opposite side, is all about death and destruction
Yes, absolutely.
and total regeneration.
Yes.
So, we plant, we might put a plant in the garden and dig a hole and take a lot of care to help it to grow. It might, particularly if it's a food plant, to grow food and it doesn't take much to destroy it.
No.
Like I had a little punnet of silver beet ready to plant out, and overnight some little critter has gotten into it and chewed the lot. Just they're all gone.
Yes.
So that's the sort of polarity of these two signs. They've got a lot to do with sexuality and sensuality and survival and so on.
And Scorpio can be quite calculating too, because if you think of the animal that it represents, scorpion, right? And they're happy to play the long game in situations. I've watched them on those animal documentaries, and they'll just lay in wait, waiting for something to come along. Then they strike with the precision of a military sniper, like boom.
Exactly.
So they're
That
very,
tail, that's right.
yeah, that's right. And they're very penetrating and intense and powerful, very determined.
Yes.
What are they? They're not.
Intense.
No, I'm just thinking what type of animal they are, but they're a critter anyway. Put it that way.
Yes. Well, they're a predator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
But
yeah, so there's this incredible intensity. They're both fixed signs, Scorpio and Taurus. They're on the fixed cross, Scorpio,
yeah.
Taurus, Leo, Aquarius are the four fixed signs, one of each element. So
Mm.
there's a tremendous power here.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, think of all the Scorpios and Taurians, there's tremendous inner strength.
Yeah.
Um, I often say, because I know many people of both those signs, um, it seems so often that they're almost indestructible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Taurians are tough, they're strong, they're physically strong. And Scorpios just go through endless, cycles of death and rebirth. And no matter how far down they go or how they're knocked, they seem to be able to regenerate and just come back. It takes a lot to knock out a Scorpio, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
I know a few Scorpios too, and they can come across as, if you don't know them, sometimes you can feel suspicious about them because they're so secretive and possessive of their private life, So,
Yes.
and when people are, and they're just protecting it, but when people are like that, you sort of get a feeling of, there's something fishy about this sort of person. But it's just them trying to protect their personal private affairs, really.
Yes, it's true. It's the deepest of the signs.
Mm.
Out of all the 12 signs, as we go around the zodiac in Libra, we're socializing, engaging with life and people. When we come to Scorpio, we literally take a dive.
Yeah.
It's like swimming in deep, deep, deep waters. And it is
Yeah.
a water sign. So it's all feelings and psychic energy. And
I was just going to bring that up actually about how they can, easily tap into the psychic realms, and they're often guided by their intuition, got really strong intuition,
very strong.
and they can be extremely clairvoyant. And,
Exactly.
yeah, they're amazing how they can easily tap into the psychic realms, like Cancerians and Pisces too, because
That's right.
they're
And
very
yes. So because it's operating from this very deep place, Scorpio has a very penetrating quality.
mm,
It's that looking at life, or it's a situation or a person from this deep place out through those powerful eyes,
mm,
and watching and noticing and perceiving and looking deeply into anything and everything. And it's very much the sign of the detective.
yeah. I was going to say that.
That's
Yeah.
right. And ruled by Pluto, the lord of the underworld.
Mm.
It is also associated with the criminal underworld. Now, please, folks, all Scorpios are not criminals. I'm not suggesting that, but we're in the shadow realms, and that can include, therapy and psychic energy and healing, and all of the healers and therapists I've ever met in my life, and it's a lot, all have strong Scorpio energy in their chart without exception.
Yes. Yeah.
By
Yeah.
the same token, if you look at the charts of, criminals and people who really operate in very shadowy areas of life, there you'll find Scorpio as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it really does come across as being very secretive, but it is protective, absolutely. It's also just, they don't have a lot of energy to outwardly engage with light. Like I know a lot of Scorpios, and there's so much going on inside. They're processing constantly so much. They often find it difficult to come out. And I know a Scorpio very well. It's my daughter, actually. And she used to say, even when she was a kid at school, she can't stand it if she goes really quiet, which is natural with Scorpio, and someone will say, "What's wrong with you?" She got like, "Nothing's wrong." So someone's wanting to draw her out, but she's
Yeah.
just gone into this quiet. So it's a complex sign, it's not
Very
simple.
much.
It's layers and layers and layers and layers.
And it's quite mysterious. It comes across as having this mysterious aspect to it, which can be very alluring and enticing and seductive. That
Yes,
sort of person. People love mystery, and mysterious people. We're sort of drawn to them and going, okay, what's going on here? But
that's
I
right.
do notice they don't like to be read. You try and read, like you say, like with your daughter, or you try and read them and go, okay, well, you're not talking, you're upset, blah, blah. No. And I
That's
don't
right.
like it if you do that. Don't pry into
No,
me.
that's right. Because the other, and we're talking in general about Scorpios, but this energy is very strong with us now with this eclipse and Pluto stationary. And trust is a huge issue in this sign. Because they operate and come from a very, very deep place, in those murky waters of the unconscious and the psyche, a lot goes on in there. And this world is full of dark, shadowy energies.
Yes.
They learn instinctively from a very young age that you can't trust everybody.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
themes around trust and mistrust, betrayal of trust, are very strong in this sign, which is one of the reasons they keep things very much to themselves, unless or until they're in a situation with someone where they feel completely like a good therapist. That's why therapists have to have, some good Scorpio energy, because they will provide a space for the client to open up and share their darkest things that they've never told anybody else before. This happens to Scorpios all the time. I've asked so many Scorpios over the years, do people tell you all their deep secrets? Oh, God, all the time. That's from the time they were children, often.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting, very complex, not easy sign, actually.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't say that it's
Yeah.
particularly an easy one. So yeah, so the other thing I was lost to say, of course, about this full
Yeah.
moon lunar eclipse, one of them is that every year we have this full moon in Scorpio opposite the Taurus sun. And in the Buddhist world, this is a very, very big deal.
You're reading my mind every time I think I'm going to talk about that.
You were about to go there.
That's all right. You go.
Okay. So, and please jump in if you want to, add anything. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot to say about this too. And
Mm.
so the legend, I don't know how much truth is in this, but the legend is that Buddha was born on this full moon, became enlightened on this full moon, and left his body or died on this full moon, this particular Taurus. And I've always associated Taurus with Buddha, and I see it in people a lot.
Mm.
People have a connection to the Buddhist teachings in some way.
Yeah. True.
It often shows up in their charts in that way.
Mm.
And again, it's that sense of, Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, just perfectly still, right underneath the tree, which is such a Taurian image,
Mm.
when he'd done everything he could to become enlightened, and he had to finally just give up because there wasn't anything left he could do. And he just decided to sit still and not move, which is such a Taurus image, under a tree.
Mm.
And it was in the stopping that so much happened, life threw demons at him, all sorts, war in his inner world, all these things came up, and he just didn't move. He just let it all come up from his own psyche.
Yeah.
It all poured out, and he became enlightened. So it's very Taurus Scorpio.
Mm. Yeah.
It's a very powerful full moon every year, and this one's a ripper because it also happens to be a lunar eclipse.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, you know, prior to an eclipse, we might feel one way, but then after the eclipse, we may feel differently about something or someone. So it's sort of symbolic about Buddha sitting there and, you know, sat there with one frame of mind, but then after the Enlightenment had a different perspective.
Exactly.
It's sort of like a represents that shift.
It does, which is a very Scorpio process, because he literally died to who he was
Yes.
and was totally and completely reborn,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is Scorpio, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it happened when he finally stopped. Yeah, after all the efforting, to follow all the different paths and spiritual techniques, and just, yeah.
Yeah.
Great lesson in that, I think.
Yes. Yes. Be still.
He's still, exactly, yeah, he had, yeah. If you look into his teaching, you'll see that references to that energy, that sort of Taurus Scorpio energy.
Yes, I remember posting a meme on my, I think it was my Body Light Center Facebook page, and I think it was a Buddha sitting under a tree, and it said, one day I felt a great urge for a pilgrimage, so I sat still for 3 days, and God came to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's right.
Mm.
That's right. Yeah, and we're not very good at sitting still, are we?
I'm working on it.
Me too. Thank you. I am also.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's look at this full moon lunar eclipse. So the full moon is at 14 degrees and 58 minutes. So in other words, we could say 15 degrees of Scorpio, which is smack in the middle of the sign.
Mm.
Those middle degrees of a sign are very powerful. They're full, they're pregnant. And opposite the sun, of course, at the same degree in Taurus. So yes, we've been talking about Scorpio, the purging of old material, of toxins. Toxicity is a Scorpio thing. Themes around secrets and betrayals and trust, and very often things come to light on the full moon, because remember, the moon is full. She's in her full light, although during the eclipse, the full moon will be eclipsed as the shadow of the earth passes between the sun and the moon.
Mm.
So there'll be a period. And because it'll occur in the early hours of the morning here in Australia, on the East Coast for us, it's about 3:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If we're awake, I plan not to be, but if we're awake at such a time and it's a clear night, if somebody wants to watch that, they'll be able to see that occur.
Mm.
It's going to be visible over a large part of the world, through those hours of nighttime.
Mm.
So the moon is full. So there's this tremendous light, and then the shadow passing across, in the sign of Scorpio, the sign of the deep dark. So a lot can be revealed or uncovered or come to light. And it can be things that are very, very critical, because it's an eclipse. It might be very critical. That can, people's lives, our lives can change in the blink of an eye. They can change dramatically with a singular event.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's not going to be the case for every single person. So I'm not trying to cause anxiety in people. But we know through our lives that sometimes things happen that just change everything. Yeah. And it's certainly true in the world as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, things do change, but sometimes the final outcome may not be what we anticipate.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So just wait and see. Watch the space.
That's right, because there's another factor associated with this eclipse, and that is Uranus is involved. So the planet Uranus, the great shaker and mover and disruptor and agent of tremendous change, earthquake energy. So there has been a few earthquakes, since the solar eclipse. These are some of the sort of things that can happen. Uranus is conjunct or pretty close, only a few degrees away from the sun and opposite the moon. So it's involved in this eclipse. So that does add a certain, shockwave energy to this very potent eclipse, on the 6th of May, which is Saturday here, in the early hours of the morning around 3:30. Yeah. Interestingly enough, the asteroid Vesta, who I think I mentioned last time, because she was on the solar eclipse, she's quite involved in this one as well. She's moved forward, and she is to do with, things like sacred ritual and the keeper of the sacred flame. There's Wesak full moon. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a great pilgrimage that occurs in the north part of India, in Tibet. I'm not sure if it's actually in Tibet or in the very north part of India. I think it's in Tibet, Mount Kailash. And it's been going on for hundreds and, maybe thousands of years. Devotees make their way up into those rocky mountainous terrains, and there's a big esoteric moment at this full moon. So it's very powerful when it's also an eclipse.
Yeah, it's interesting how we feel the urge to go to these sacred sites, isn't it, at various times around certain situations. And yeah, it's just like there's a calling, isn't there, for us to
There,
do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there really is. There really is. I think the energies in our body and our being and our awareness are in alignment, aren't they, with certain energy grids and
Yeah.
in the earth and around the earth. And at
Yeah.
certain times they really get activated for us individually. And
Yeah, they
yeah,
sure do. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think those big spiritual events, and this is a very big one every year that occurs on this Scorpio full moon, um, do activate energies for the planet and for humanity. And it is actually said that Buddha and Christ, and I think one other of the ascended masters in etheric form, kind of come down over Mount Kailash. And
Mm.
it is said that some of the high rishis and so on actually do see them, and they literally give a blessing to the planet and to humanity. So it can be a very powerful, auspicious time, if we're paying attention and tuning in.
Yeah. And I think when we go to these places, that we pick up the energetic seeds, and then we
Yes,
take them back home and we spread them out, and
yes,
they can energetically, they can ground into the soil around us, in the energetic soil around us, and have their effect.
exactly. So you can imagine all those people who've taken that pilgrimage in the physical, but also people who are just tuning in energetically to these huge moments. Absolutely, they're absorbing and connecting on the etheric level, on spiritual
Mm.
levels, to
Mm.
all of that, and then bringing it into their life. That's right. So yeah, it's a pretty important eclipse that sort of brings us into the month of May.
Mm.
Um, and as I said, just a few days prior, on the 2nd, Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, is very powerful, making that turn into retrograde motion. And when planets turn and go back over the territory they've been, he will go back just a couple of degrees back into the last degree and a half of Capricorn. In June, he'll do that. It is a time of, think of all the words that start with RE,
Mm.
retrograde, review, revisit, return, revise, reconsider. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
React.
React.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so we go like deeper back
Yes.
into, where we've been, and reevaluate, I think is a great word to use,
Yeah. Yeah.
to really look more deeply and experience, because the times like this, I think, are very powerful karmically as well. They can be very powerful trigger points for meeting karma, sometimes in quite intense, powerful ways. Sometimes it might be, for some individuals, it might be the moment where a certain crisis occurs, because it will support that person to release some old stuck karma in some way.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, ultimately, it's all about evolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
All of it, whether we like it or not.
Yes, true. Very true.
Yes. Um,
Wow, this energy is really making me feel flat.
right.
I can't walk around with a weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I often say this to you afterwards, but I might as well say it in this episode, how when we talk about certain planetary energies, influences, the energy in our conversation seems to reflect the energy of what we're talking about. So if we're talking about Gemini, it's like blah blah blah, and
Exactly.
it goes all over the place. But
Exactly.
about Pluto and talking about Scorpio and well,
That's right. We're mining, we're being like deep sea divers, and
yeah,
down we go. That's
yeah.
true. There's a word for it that I can never recall. Someone told me years ago, and I love the word. It's one of those fabulous words. It comes from the Greek, and it literally means what we are speaking about is coming in. It's showing
Yes.
up as literally as we speak of it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
I know the
But
word, but I can't think of it either.
no, it's one of those great words. Yeah,
Yes.
I can never remember it.
Yeah.
So, so before we leave from the Scorpios, a little bit more to say, then we'll move on to
Jeez, that's
some other energies. So, of course, the south node of the moon has been in Scorpio for, what is it, about 16 months or so. And there's another couple of months to go. By the end of July, the south node will move back into Libra, which has a different and a lighter energy, we could say. So we've all been kind of going through this really deep stuff the last 16 months or so. So the south node is now, and by the way, a new and a full moon form eclipses, or eclipses are formed when the nodes of the moon are in close alignment with the sun and the moon. That's why every 6 months the full and new moon are eclipses. So the nodes are always involved. And the nodes are an axis of destiny and karma.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking that South
Yeah,
eclipse is like a culmination of things in the past, from the
that's right.
past. Yeah.
That's right. So this full moon lunar eclipse is on the south node, not on the north node. It can be either. And so it carries, again, this energy of old, deep material surfacing. And you said something like that in the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting a glimpse into some old, deep material in our psyche, in the unconscious, from our karmic past, old patterns, and,
Yeah.
it's those moments of think, God, why does this keep happening? That kind of stuff is coming up to be seen, revealed, exposed, purged, cleansed, purified in those. Even though Scorpio is a water sign, it often feels like a volcanic fire.
Yes. Yeah.
It feels fiery sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, for me, I'll just share this little story. For me, I was watching a reel on Instagram, and it was of a baby being filmed while the mother sang to it. And the baby became so emotional hearing its mother's voice that it actually started to tear. It got tears in its eyes and it teared up. And I just found myself doing the same thing. I became very teary about it. And it was like, remembering when my daughter was a little baby herself and how I miss that, now that I'm an older and she's a fully grown adult. And but even though you've got your adult child with you, you still can miss the little one that they used
that's right.
to know. So and that was
That's
what happened is this old sort of energy came up from way back.
Yeah. And it's emotional. It's felt because it's
Yeah.
Scorpio. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I was thinking, where is this coming from?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know the video you mean. I saw it a couple of years ago. It's very beautiful.
Lovely. It's just beautiful. Yeah,
And
exactly.
you can see this connection as a little baby is so open and so in love with the mother, and the mother's so in love with this little baby. And
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that singing, it's like their hearts are just completely open and connected. It's
yeah,
very beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I believe that the connection to that may be because my daughter is a Cancerian, and Venus is going to go into Cancer.
that's right.
So I thought, well, maybe that's the connection.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep your tissues handy.
Oh, being human is so hard sometimes.
I know, because I was just thinking about this the other day. There's so many different parts of us.
Yeah.
Like this part of us that's represented by the element of water that feels so much. And Scorpio, it feels so deeply. Other parts of us, like the Aquarian parts of us or the fire, are like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't got time for that nonsense.
No,
I've got other things to do.
yeah.
And so we're pushed and pulled. These different parts of us are activated, triggered, show up, touched by different situations and people. And It's complicated being a human.
It is. And especially when you're quite airy, which I am.
Yes.
I'm used to deep emotions coming to the surface from some realm that I haven't even thought about for a long time.
That's right.
It was like, and it was sort of, it was surprising. It's surprising.
Yes.
Mm.
That's right. But for people who are by nature quite watery, that's just kind of normal.
Now
So that's right.
I know how my daughter feels all the
That's
time.
right.
It must be awful.
Because everything is felt. It's
Yes,
all felt. That's right.
yes.
So you're absolutely, and so even Pluto, before we move on to Venus in Cancer, because that's the next piece to talk about. I know you're just that's right. Um,
I'm treading water here.
I know we will move on. Pluto is actually squaring this south node in Scorpio, and it will be for some months still. So there is this deep energy of deep material being dredged. I have to use this kind of language, like dredged
Yeah.
up from deep underground basements. Now, sometimes these things are literal, underground tunnels, underground base, but it's also a metaphor for our psyche,
Mm.
the unconscious, and all the deep layers. And I was listening to a wonderful recording just last night. It was very profound. And she was saying, there's a reason that when we're born, we are born completely forgetful of our past lives and where we came from and who we are. It must be that way because we cannot do what we came here to do and, you know, clear karmas and fulfill our mission and our purpose. If we remember all of that,
Yeah.
we can't do it.
Yeah, it'd be too much to carry, wouldn't it?
That's right. It's just too much. And we wouldn't willingly go through all the things we have to go through in order for that to unfold and its purpose to be fulfilled. So it was such a beautiful way she expressed it, and it makes complete sense. So it's then when certain transits and triggers and activations happen, stuff does kind of open up and come up. And you go, where did that come from?
Mm.
There's a ton of that material down there,
Yeah. And that's why you have these moments where you think, God, didn't I deal with that already? No.
Exactly. Exactly. Or there's another
Only a bit.
piece of it,
Yeah.
or there's another layer of it that
Yeah.
we haven't gone to yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it's an ongoing process, and we're right in it right now. We're in the thick of that individually. And of course, this will impact everyone individually according to their birth chart and how these things are triggering things in the chart. Some people will be activated by an eclipse more than others because it's directly hitting something in their own birth chart, and others, not so much. It'll
Yeah.
be more of a general kind of, experience in the general field. And of course, the collective of all of humanity in the world we live in absolutely goes through these eclipse portals big time.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
All right, shall we move
Oh,
on?
please do. Please.
So that was a big piece,
Mm.
that's very much on the table right now. So, and of course, the balance to that from Scorpio, the Taurian balance is to get grounded, do simple things like how to use in the garden Scorpio Taurus combination. Get your
Yeah.
pruning shears out and prune and dig and clear all the rubbish out and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's wonderful, simple ways we can work with these energies that are actually really beneficial and helpful.
And it's a good time to plant all your seedlings and put your seeds in. I hope you put your seeds in a while ago, but seedlings will be coming up now. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I did all mine last week, I think it was. And
Yeah,
oh gosh, it's so nice just to get out there and put my hands in the soil
I
and
know.
and put those little babies in there.
And then go and check them every morning, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Watch them. I know it's wonderful. I've done that as well.
Mm.
So on the 8th of May, so 2 days after the eclipse, yes, Venus, the goddess, the feminine principle of
Mm.
love, the heart, connection, relating, sharing, moves into the sign of Cancer.
Mm.
water sign. So and she'll be sloshing around in there.
Speaking the same language, baby.
Yeah, that's right. For about 3.5 weeks, about
Yeah.
3.5 weeks. Now, so here she'll be bringing our attention to it's very personal. Cancer's very personal.
Mm.
It's what we call in astrology quincunx, or in conjunct to the sign of Aquarius, which is totally impersonal and
Yeah.
detached,
Yeah.
right? That's its nature. They're very different. They're very chalk and cheese. So Cancer, Venus in Cancer is, to me, the ultimate in tender-hearted mother love, and I would always see it as this soft pink energy,
Yeah.
right? And it is that scene of the mother and her baby and their, open-hearted, beautiful emotional connection. This baby is, it's that this baby is so in love.
Yeah.
Tears are falling. It's that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Mm.
And so all things to do with home, with family, with our children, with our mothers, with
Nurture,
babies, with nurturing, with taking care,
cooking.
cooking, food. Yes, that, like, people with Venus in Cancer in general, they love feeding people. You want to go to their house because, they'll just take absolute great delight in
Yeah.
feeding.
It's the heart of the home, isn't it? It's like in
Absolutely.
the middle of winter, I have the fireplace going and sitting around that and the emanation of the fire, but it's not hot, it's cozy.
Cozy. Exactly.
Coziness, that sort of feeling. Or if someone's got a dog or a cat and they cozy up on their lovely soft blanket, it's like, oh yes,
That's right. It's a kind of a closing in.
Yep.
The symbol for Cancer is beautiful. I'll just sort of do it this way. It's very round,
Yes.
and it is that sense of, arms wrapped around.
Mm.
And it's tender, and Venus in Cancer is very tender-hearted. So I think this is a beautiful time, particularly as we go through other strong energies. Sometimes a really beautiful thing is just to sit quietly and just put our hands on our heart. That is a beautiful way to meditate when energy like this is available.
Yep. Yeah.
And just, drop in and surround ourselves in soft pink and have rose quartz around and
Mm.
connect with
Mm.
rose quartz energy and um moonstone,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So is this the day after
It's the
the
it's
eclipse?
the
2 days after.
very, very well, it's actually just a little over 24 hours later. It's actually on the 8th. The eclipse is on the 6th.
Right.
It's almost 2 days. Venus goes into Cancer in the wee early hours of the morning of the 8th,
Mm-hmm.
just after midnight
Right.
on the 8th. So that'll be on the Monday.
So I can wake
So
up and put my soft fuzzy pink slippers on and my
exactly.
fuzzy pink dressing gown.
I know I'm not a big fan of winter. I like summer, but I do love wearing a dressing gown.
Yeah, oh gosh, it feels so
I
good.
can almost live in a dressing gown through the entirety of winter.
I'll go on, I bet you do.
And because I work from home, I can. That's right. I know it's lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Cancer is ruled or governed by the moon.
Mm.
And the moon has so much to do with, mother and nurture and so on.
Mm.
So, yeah, this is a lovely, soft, nurturing energy. And so, yes, there'll be, emotions. I mean, if there are children around, there might be lots of some emotional upsets, or
Mm.
children or anybody, adults, the child and the adult just needing a cuddle.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if we repress our feelings, that's not good.
That's not good. That's
No.
not healthy at all.
Yeah.
That's right. Um, okay. Now, I couldn't read my notes here. On the 10th of May, the sun, still in Taurus, gets to 18 degrees and meets Uranus. So I said at the eclipse, it's very close to Uranus. It will actually make the exact conjunction on the 10th. And, the sun will meet up with Uranus every year. So, on a certain date, and certainly around that whole week really will have that Uranian energy impacting the sun. So that can be an energy of, feeling the urge to want to break out and break free. It's that like, oh, I've got to change things up, got to move energy. I need change. I need fresh air.
I think too, I always think of that as the Uranus is quirky. And, some people have quirkiness, but they don't show it in mainstream society. But it's, with conjuncting the sun, it's like, come on, let it out, baby. Like be
Exactly.
unapologetically yourself.
Yes.
Forget what the latest trend is, or don't listen to your friends, or succumb to peer group pressure. Just be yourself. Be yourself.
Exactly. We're so programmed to fit the mold and fit in and be a certain way that, we lose contact with who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when there is strong Uranus activations, there's this tremendous urge to break free of the program. I posted something on Facebook this morning, and I'm just realizing how Uranus it was. It was a kind of a funny meme, and about breaking out of the matrix. That's very Uranus.
Yeah, right.
Then on the 13th of May, over a couple of days, but the 13th, Venus, moving through Cancer, will make a trine with Saturn, who is now in Pisces for these 3 years. So Saturn moved into Pisces on the 7th of March and remains in Pisces for 3 years now. So Venus makes a trine to Saturn in these two water signs of Cancer and Pisces. And in my experience, when, often Saturn aspects, and we all have them in our chart, can be quite challenging. But when it's a trine, I find Saturn is more like a helpful support.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's offering support in very practical, very real ways. So that could be a day or a couple of days when we're accomplishing perhaps some really useful, helpful things in our personal world. Remember, I said Cancer is very personal. What we need, what we feel, where. And by the way, Cancer is often very psychic and intuitive, as you said earlier. And Venus there, we will be feeling and tuning in. So I think it might be a helpful time to be paying attention to what we're tuning into and feeling, and taking some practical steps to address that. That's very Saturn,
Yeah.
however that might show up for people. And then on the 15th of May, Mercury, bless his cotton socks, will turn direct again.
Yay.
So, I haven't said much about that yet, but, Mercury's is in retrograde motion. And I've been noticing and reflecting on all the little glitches that have been happening, nothing major, but lots of little interesting moments, like this incident with the water filter today. I thought, oh yeah, thanks Mercury. And me on a semi-important mission yesterday, but I left an important piece of the mission at home, so so then I have to go back again. Yeah, thanks Mercury. That kind of thing. Just lots of little mishaps like that can happen. So Mercury will get back to 5, nearly 6 degrees of Taurus and begin to turn direct again. So that always feels helpful when that happens.
Yeah. Okay. So Mercury in Taurus, in Taurus, Mercury slows down, right?
Mercury is what? Sorry?
Mercury, while it's in Taurus, moves more slowly than normal.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just like slow living.
Yes.
Sort of. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's 3, sometimes 4 times a year, Mercury goes through these 3-week retrograde periods, and it's a very wise thing to do if we can, to literally slow down, particularly
Yeah.
in Taurus, which is not a fast-moving energy.
Yeah. So in Taurus, it can be like taking time to think things through,
Yes,
that sort of thing. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, which Mercury in Taurus likes to do anyway. It's
Yeah.
pragmatic. It wants to go through things carefully. It doesn't
Yeah.
leap to conclusions.
Mm.
It doesn't just, like move in the blink of an eye. No, it wants to consider. It looks for
Yeah.
evidence, checks the facts,
Goes a bit Virgoan, doesn't it?
goes a bit Virgo, and is considering all the practical implications, because Taurus wants a result. It's a sign of manifestation.
Mm. Mm.
So in Taurus, if we're going to put our energy into something, we're not going to rush at it. We're going to take our time to consider,
Mm.
think it through, because we actually want an outcome, a result. It's not an impulsive thing,
Yes.
right? And it wants a practical, pragmatic. People with Mercury in Taurus are very pragmatic in their thinking, and they don't rush at it.
Yes. Mm.
It's sensible. So, yes, so Mercury is in retrograde in Taurus is a period to really, rethink all of our Taurian issues, finances, for example.
Mm.
Great
Mm.
time to get tax sorted. I've been doing mine in fits and starts. I have to complete it. I'm hoping I'll get it done by the time Mercury's finished this piece. It's just not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just find it very tedious, but there you go. Um,
Mm.
so then, speaking of Taurus,
Mm.
then there's another major event which takes place for the month of May.
Mm.
And that is on the 17th, 2 days after Mercury turns direct in Taurus. Jupiter, who's been firing on all cylinders in Aries, off and on over about an 18-month period, sort of in and out of Pisces and Aries, but been in Aries very much for the last 4-5 months or so, leaves Aries and moves into Taurus.
Mm.
So, there's a lot of Taurus energy we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
So,
oh, sorry.
uh, well, of course, Taurus, as we've been saying, is anything to do with finances,
Mm.
personal and in the world, in the collective. That's a big theme. The land, farming, food, agriculture, resources.
So it's about an expansion of our material growth, like,
Yes.
money, food. Actually, I'm thinking about putting on weight.
Yes.
Eating too much. There's too much
Yeah,
slop.
yes, which is something many people with Jupiter in Taurus, Taurus in general, most Taurians don't have a physical body that is very light and
Yeah.
slim. Some do. I've seen exceptions, and there's usually a lot of Gemini in the chart or something like that,
Mm.
right? But usually they have an earthy body. It's the nature of Taurus. And
Mm.
many people with Taurus energy strong do struggle with weight, because this sign ruled by Venus loves pleasure.
That's right.
It operates through the senses of taste, of touch, of smell, of
Yeah.
physicality. It's very sensual,
Yeah.
and enjoys food so much. It's a source of great pleasure. They're often wonderful cooks.
Yeah.
The pantry of a Taurian will be full of all sorts of glorious things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also find, because Taurus is quite slow moving, it can be chilled out, like, so Jupiter moving into that might help us more chill out more, or life in general might chill out more, or society might chill out more, or that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It will certainly feel calmer after Jupiter in Aries, which is pretty gung-ho and fiery,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's more like coming to ground.
Yeah. Have a
So
bit more patience.
absolutely. What's that?
Have a bit more patience too.
Oh, patient.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, Taurus has a great capacity to hang in there.
Yeah.
Very patient, just keeps going,
Mm.
really. Remember, its animal representation is the bull,
Mm.
and bulls are powerful. It's all in the chest and the neck,
Yeah.
right? That's the part of the body. And I've long been fascinated by out the front of the New York Stock Exchange, there's a very famous, very magnificent, I think it's bronze actually, a bronze huge statue of a bull, which is amazing because,
Mm.
the New York Stock Exchange is all about big money, which is, you see, Taurus is money, my money, my
Yeah.
resources, how I spend it, earn it, what I do with it. Scorpio is big money, taxes, big corporations, what's going on in secret, big, big, big money, stock exchange, all that kind of stuff. So this is another interesting feature of this eclipse, I think. But the bull is an image of tremendous power and determination.
Mm.
It's a very determined sign.
Mm.
So let's look at the positive things of Jupiter in Taurus, because Jupiter is fundamentally a very positive, inspirational
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it can, some people will literally experience it beneficially financially. Not everybody is going to, of course, but some will. It can bring bounty, benefit, increase. It might be that, you get a promotion and a raise, or in some cases, there can be a win. There can be new opportunities that come up, or
Mm.
a change of direction. Jupiter is also the planet of truth,
Yeah. Yeah. And higher learnings.
higher learning.
Mm. Mm.
That's a very good point, because I think this could be a very good time and an opportunity for the human race to learn a little bit more about how the financial systems are actually operating on this planet,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Because we've been kept in the dark for a long time.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, so Jupiter does bring a lot of energy to a sign. So that's going to increase the focus on all things financial, also all things agricultural, the land, real estate, property, right? The wealth that comes from the land, resources, including things like, oil and gems and, all sorts of things, which is very Scorpio Taurus. In Scorpio, you're kind of digging for wealth, in the earth,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Mm.
It can also be, I think, Jupiter has a lot to do with our philosophical belief system,
Mm.
the way we view life and how we understand it, and our search and our quest for higher truth and knowledge. And in Taurus, that can really connect us literally to earth.
Mm.
It could be a beautiful opportunity for more and more people to begin to understand the spiritual connection with the earth itself, and with
Yes.
the land, and with
Definitely. Yeah.
growing things and plants and trees and Gaia, and the earth herself as a being, and the
Yeah.
evolutionary process she's going through as well, and her ascension. And are we moving and evolving fast enough to be able to ascend with her, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of issues around all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and being still and learning from nature, observing it. And when we stop and make space for that, we can, I mean, it shifts our perspective, it shifts our energy, and we suddenly realize of what's going on around us at all levels, and that we're part of that too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
Exactly. And I think it was just this morning I read or heard someone say something like, truly nature is the great teacher.
Yes.
You know, if we're really stopping enough to, and it really means stopping, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
taking time to just sit and observe and feel and notice and tune in
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah. I think I was going to write about this in my next newsletter, which is about, you know, the theme when I get together with groups of people, and sometimes you're there too, is how tired people feel.
Yes.
And I think it's because we need to live at a slower pace, stop,
Yeah.
observe nature, tune into creative possibilities. And I think that sometimes, our body is telling us what our soul already knows, that, stop living the way you are, that sort of
That's
thing.
right.
So, yeah, just tuning into nature and the cycles of it, because nature doesn't, everything has its cycle, it has its moment in time. And I think that in our Western world, we sort of want it all at once, you know? And
Right.
that's not the way we are naturally. That's not how nature works. It doesn't have everything at once.
That's right. Yes, we're so out of kilter, aren't we? Out of sync. And that, I mean, I'm looking forward to that shift actually, because I have Jupiter in Aries natally, and Jupiter's been in Aries, and I'm very conscious that I just keep going, and it seems like there's always just so much needing my attention. Um, and I noticed today, as I was saying to you earlier, I was trying to do something that I didn't have to do. I kind of, part of me wanted to, but I just went, I'm so tired. And I just went and lay down and ended up having this deep, deep sleep, and just made it to this recording in time. I woke up just in time. But yes, I just like coming to absolutely understand and really acknowledge and admit how tired I was. And even though I love to paint, I just couldn't. I had to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just had to sleep. So yes, I think Jupiter in Taurus is going to serve very well in that regard. And, I was just thinking also, in Buddhism, particularly in the Zen Buddhist tradition, a big part of the meditation practices they do is walking meditation, where you literally just walk so slowly, every movement of the foot. The challenge or the invitation is to be present and feel and experience every single step. You might, I've seen it on video. You'll see Zen Buddhist monks walking through a city just like that, and that everything, all the chaos is going on around them, and they're just here, just walking. Right. That's very Jupiter in Taurus, and meeting life in a slower way, very present. Oh, it feels good to talk about it, doesn't it? I can see again, the energy changes as we speak of it.
Yes. Yeah. We just have to break the addiction to
Yes,
being constantly occupied.
that's right. And the world and the energies of the world um, encourage us virtually to just be just in a constant state of activity
Yeah.
and hyper, vigilance and
Yeah.
involvement and engagement all the time.
That's one of our society's values, is to be busy, because when you're
That's right.
busy, you're doing things and you can achieve things and be successful, but that's not what life's about at all.
No, we're missing so much. So bring on Jupiter and Taurus, and let's get back to Earth and literally walk, with the Earth. What was it? Thich Nhat Hanh, the wonderful Zen Buddhist monk, he said something like the greatest miracle is not walking on water. It's literally just walking on the earth, or something like that. I think I've got that wrong, but it was along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, okay,
Which brings us to
that brings us, it brings us to the new moon. But as Jupiter, I just want to say, and we can talk more about this next time, because this is going to be relevant for quite a bit of this year. As Jupiter enters Taurus, it will make a square aspect to Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius.
yeah.
And then a couple of days later, Mars will be at 0 degrees of Leo. There's going to be this very strong T-square at these 0 degrees of 3 of the fixed signs between powerful Pluto, big Jupiter, and very dynamic Mars.
Yeah.
So, and this is all just, coming in after this eclipse season and all around the new moon, which we'll talk more about next time we come together. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in May. I seem to say that every month, but there is a lot going on in May.
There's only, I think, like we've been doing this, these episodes for 3 years, just over 3 years now. And
wow.
There's only been a few months that I can remember that I could count on one hand where there wasn't a lot going on.
That's right.
It's been full on.
Yeah, full on. Big pivotal shifts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I guess that's in the background, and that adds to the tiredness because we've got to process things mentally and emotionally.
Exactly.
That takes energy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think we forget that.
We do.
Yeah. We forget.
We do. We're so automatically running on this other energy of just go, 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 do.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, indeed.
Well, let's just be.
Let's just turn that motor off.
Yeah.
And just stop.
Yes. Well, thank you.
I'm going to go and walk barefoot out in the garden now.
Yeah, oh, that'll be nice. I could just feel the grass under my feet
I
already.
know, it's lovely, lovely, cool, fresh grass.
Well, thank you so much for all that information.
My pleasure.
A very interesting conversation as usual.
Yes.
And I look forward to the next episode where we're talking about the next lunar cycle. They're always very interesting. They all have their own theme, their own energy.
They do.
The influence on us is amazing. So if you enjoyed, viewers, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like it. Leave comments. Let us know how these things are playing out in your life. And we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of Astrology Now. So until then, stay safe and be well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.